The only reason I'm going out of my way to tell any of you this is because the story Jane the Killer is starting to piss me off. My real name is Jane Arkansas, also known as Jane the Killer, and this is how I met Jeff. The reason I look the way I do and why I want to kill him. I want to kill him. When I heard that a new family had moved in across the street, I wasn't that surprised. It was a nice neighborhood and the house was relatively cheap, considering where it was. I guess I was about 13 to 14 when everything went to hell. I never really talked to Jeff when he moved in. To be frank, I never talked to him at all until that night. But it's too soon to talk about that now. My first impression of Jeff was that he was a good kid, probably got nice grades, rarely got into fight, maybe even a cool guy if he opened up to someone. His brother Liu seemed like he put family first, by the way he sat with his brother on the sidewalk. Of course, I was just guessing at the time and really didn't put much thought into my analysis. Because I was getting ready for school, and I looked out my window and I was running late, which was unusual for me at that time in my life because I was hardly ever late for anything, especially school. I wasn't surprised when I saw Randy and his dude just go up to Jeff and Liu. On that stupid skateboard of his, Randy was nothing but a bully. He always picked on anyone who was smaller than him. He was even the reason why my parents drove me to school instead of letting me take take the bus like everyone else. Everyone had their lunch money or some kind of cash given to Randy and his goons because of some toll that he demanded from everyone. We all knew Randy's group had knives and threatened to use them on us, as we never ever told anyone about the money they took from the other kids on the block. Everyone except the new kids they were trying to the intimate like of the, the rest of us. When I saw Randy talking to them through the window, I just looked away. It was a risky thing to do, but I had better things to do than watch another kid hand over his money to Randy. The curiosity got the better of me, and I looked up a few seconds later. And what I saw left me speechless. Jeff was standing now. It looked like Randy already had what he wanted. Just sit down, I thought. Don't be stupid. When I saw Jeff punch Randy in the face and break his wrist. Oh my god, I whispered. Oh my god. Then I yelled, you idiot! My parents ran downstairs and asked what happened. They looked outside and saw what was going on. Jeff had already cut the skinny guy. I think his name was Keith. And he went down screaming. Troy only went with the front of the house having big windows. He saw the whole thing, or at least I did. My parents came in after the part where Randy saw their wallet, so they didn't know the whole truth. It was disturbing watching Jeff fight. He was enjoying himself too much. I felt a knot in my stomach, like something was happening that shouldn't be. And from the look on Liu's face, Jeff didn't do this kind of thing often. Next thing I know, I hear sirens, and the new kids bolted out of here. The cops came around with the bus driver to check on the victims. It seemed they were going to be alright. Considering the amount of crap kicked out again. Since my parents' policy was no cops ever since my dad got framed by a narc cop when he wanted to draw attention off himself. When police were investigating, so spelled wrong, were investigating the case of the missing coke. It ended up with my dad quitting the force. So he heard sirens, we went into the backyard, and he got into the car and left. When my parents drove me to school, they told me very clearly that they didn't want me talking to Jeff ever. I did not disagree with them. I had odd first period, so I didn't see Jeff until close to the end of school. I can still see the colors in my artwork if I think hard enough. But when I try to look at anything now, it all seems gray. I guess there's a price someone pays for losing their innocence. I didn't see Jeff until the final period of the day. Then, when I did, he seemed off. At first, I thought he was just faking the joy so people wouldn't suspect him for the crime that he did. But he really was enjoying himself. It wasn't because he was excited to be at school. I could tell that much from him. The smile he wore looked sadistic to me. It was the smile of a madman. The second that bell rang, I bolted out those doors as fast as I could. Nobody but me knew what Jeff really was. A freak. The next day seemed to be passing out without incident at first. When I saw the police car in front of Jeff's house, looks like they've got you. I thought nobody could gotten away with something like that. With the neighborhood watch and everything. But I was wrong with who they arrested. Instead of coming out with Jeff like I expected they would, the police came out with Liu, his brother. I was barely forming the thought of Jeff blaming his brother for the assault when he came out of the house yelling at Liu. Liu, tell them I did it. I was able to hear him this time because the front door was open to my house. I couldn't hear what Liu said in reply to Jeff's outburst, but it was definitely not what Jeff wanted to hear. A few seconds later, the police drove off with Liu, and Jeff was left outside with his mother. A few minutes later, she went inside and left Jeff outside. Though I couldn't hear him across the street, I could tell he was crying. But who wouldn't be in that situation? The next day, rumors were spreading like wildfire about Liu. It took so long the rumors to get started because everyone was afraid about Randy getting his ass handed to him when it was revealed that he wouldn't be coming back to school for a few days. Everyone decided to take advantage of that fact and enjoy it as much as possible. And lots of random bullshit started popping up. I heard Liu cut off Randy's Keith's arm. Oh yeah? I heard that Liu hit Troy so hard in the stomach that he roughed up blood. That's nothing. I heard he punched Randy so hard in the nose that it came out the back of his head, etc., etc., etc. Personally, I didn't want anything to do with Jeff or his father. He just looked so alone and upset that I had to do something. So I wrote him a note telling him he had a friend in this place and that I was going to testify at Liu's trial about what really happened. I left a note at his desk signed with the letter J before the class started and left the room. And when I came back, Jeff was at his desk and the note was gone. Saturday rolled around and I was home alone while my parents were at work. The kid next door was having a birthday party. At the time, I left my window open because I wanted a nice breeze in my room while I did my homework, but the kids were getting so loud that I decided to close my window. I was about to close it when I saw Jeff playing with the kids. He was running around wearing one of those fake cowboy hats and carrying a toy gun. He looked so ridiculous I had to laugh. Maybe he isn't the monster I think he is, I thought, ashamed of myself for suspecting he could have been one. As I was closing the window, I saw Randy, Keith, and Troy jump over the fence on the skateboards to where Jeff was. Not again, I said to the open window. I saw Randy and Jeff exchange small talk. I couldn't hear what they said over the sound of kids yelling and screaming. Then Wendy busted Jeff and tackled him. I was about to grab the phone and dial 911 when I heard Troy and Keith shout, "No one interrupts or guts will fly." I looked out the window again and saw that they both had matching guns in their hands. I couldn't have called for help then without endangering the lives of others. I couldn't have called 911 anyway. The batteries in my phone was dead. Jeff was on his side, getting kicked by Randy in the face, and he grabbed his foot and twisted it. Randy fell over, and Jeff tried to walk back to the house when Troy grabbed him by the collar and drew him towards the house. I heard glass breaking. I knew then that they were going to kill him. "Randy, you asshat!" I screamed at him, but he couldn't hear me over the sound of the kids screaming. I couldn't wait anymore, so I went to my parents' bedroom and searched for my dad's cell phone, hoping that he forgot it at home. My heart was pounding in my chest, knowing that he knew that the longer it took for me to get help, the higher the chance of someone getting killed was. I finally found the phone underneath the bed. I wasted no time punching in the numbers. 911, hello? I need help. There's an emergency going on next door. Some guys jumped over the fence and are beating up someone. They've got guns. You need to hurry, please. Okay, miss, I need you to tell me the address and I'll send help right away. Quickly, I quickly told her my address and the address of the house next door. Please hurry, I said. It's okay, just stay on the bang. I heard loud gunshots from next door. I yelped and dropped the phone. It landed on the ground and broke. And then I ran to my bedroom window to try and figure out what was going on. But no sooner had I poked my head out the window, I heard a whoosh of fire and screaming. I am going to make Jeff scream like that again when I find him. The only thing I can compare it to is the death cry of an animal. It was at the time for me horrifying, but it sounds like music to me. There's nothing I want to hear more in the world than him screaming. I saw fire spew out of the house like an angry dragon. I ran downstairs immediately and got the portable fire extinguisher from the kitchen and ran outside. As I was running, I popped the pin for the fire extinguisher for immediate use. Luckily, the door was unlocked as I buzzed in, but when I saw Jeff, I completely froze. He was lying at the bottom of the stairs, completely on fire, with adults trying to put it out. I saw bits of his skin, all the commotion. Some parts were pink, some parts charred, but it was all covered in red. At the sight of all this, I screamed and I passed out. Last thing I remember is some of the adults running towards me wherever it was to help me or get the fire extinguisher. I don't know. When I came to, I was in a hospital wearing one of those gowns that the patient wears. A nurse came in a few moments later. She had long brown hair in a bun hidden under her hat. She looked like she didn't want to be there. I asked her what happened. "All I know is that you were brought in with a few other kids because you fell off and hit your head on a fire extinguisher," she said, annoyed. "A fire extinguisher?" I reached up my hand and touched my head. I felt bandages and a large bump the size of an orange. Then I remembered Jeff, one of the guys that came in here with me, the one with the burns. Is he going to be alright? Listen, there was 2 boys that were brought in with you that had burns. And no, I'm not telling you to letting you see him just because he's your boyfriend. I felt the heat rise in my face. He isn't my boyfriend. I'm just worried about him. Wouldn't you be worried about someone you just saw burning alive in front of you? I tried to keep my voice steady, but my voice quivered enough to make it sound like I was lying. Whatever. Your parents are here, by the way. Want to see them? She asked. Yes, of course. Anything to get me away from that nurse. My parents came in and the nurse finally left. They asked what happened. I told them everything. The fight, the note, all of it. Knew that Randy was no good, my mom said. So have you heard anything about Jeff's condition? I asked. No, not a thing, said my dad. We just got here as soon as we heard about what happened to you. But who told you? I asked. I didn't think I saw anyone at the party that my family knew. The hospital called us. Well, I guess that makes sense. It's absolutely no sense to me, of course. How would anyone be able to identify me without having any form of identification? I looked in the doorway and saw a man and a woman standing in there. My parents followed my gaze and saw them too. Excuse me, but is this Jane Arkansas's room? The woman asked. Yes, my mother answered. Who are you? I'm Margaret, and this is Peter, my husband. He gestured me to the man beside her. We're Jeff's parents. I sat up in my bed. I'm Isabel. This is my husband Greg, and our daughter Jane. My mom gestured to me. So you're the girl who went in with the fire extinguisher, Margaret said. Yes, I replied quietly, embarrassed. Is your son alright? He just came out of surgery a few hours ago. The doctor said he will be fine. I relaxed at that thought. That's good, I said. Listen, I know what happened to Jeff and you on that day of school. Then I told Jeff's parents what really happened to Randy and his crew. We had no idea that Jeff was capable of something like this, Peter said. I am willing to testify that Liu didn't beat up someone and that Jeff only beat up Randy and his gang in self-defense. No need, said Margaret. Liu is being released from jail after what happened to those boys. That's good, I said. We just came to say thank you for trying to help our son. Jane, it warms our heart to see selfless people in your generation. I blushed. I did anything anyone would have done in my situation. Look down, I'm not a hero. Nonsense! The least we can do is invite you over to our place for dinner when Jeff gets out of the hospital. I looked at Mom and Dad. It would be our honor, my mom said. It's settled then. We'll call you as soon as Jeff gets out of the hospital. We said our goodbyes and then they left. About 2 days passed, and I was allowed to be released from the hospital. During that time, I had no contact with Jeff or his family, but I heard that Liu was released from jail and Jeff's wounds were healing. When I got back to school, I became the center of attention, more or less because I was the only one who saw what really happened at that party. But the only people I told what happened were my friends Donnie, Marcy, and Erica. I didn't know what to tell them, so I told them what I saw. Sounds like Jeff got his ass handed to him, said Danny. She had raven black hair with sapphire blue eyes. She was usually the most level-headed of us. Well, at least he went down fighting. I heard he took those idiots to the hospital with him. Erica snickered. She always dressed like she was from the 80s or something. Long, thigh-high, rainbow-colored socks with hair to match. And always wearing some kind of backpack on with her. She also took Jane to the hospital. Maybe she was trying to beat him up too. Marcy laughed. She seemed to be the girly girl of our little group. She was blonde with brown eyes, and nearly every time we saw her, she had some sort of pink on her, whether it was the color of the shirt or the jewelry around her neck. and she was one of the biggest drama queens I knew, always stretching out the truth or blowing something out of proportion. I told you, I went over there to try and help Jeff because something was wrong, I muttered. I was the plain Jane, brown hair, green eyes, completely unremarkable, looks wise. Or maybe you wanted to see your loved one for the last time before he left to go and get help for himself, Marcy said in her dramatic voice. I looked at her with my eyes the size of dinner plates. What? You can't dandy at Jane, Arkansas. You have a crush on Jeff. Every blood cell in my body decided to migrate to my face. At once he said that. What? No, I just wanted to help him, that's all. Liar, I saw you leave that note on his desk. What was it? A confession of your love for him? No, it was nothing like that at all. I was just... So you admitted you left a note then. What do you mean? I was guessing. She gave me a cynical little smile and just waited for my response. The other girl started laughing at me. Jane, it's only a joke. I was just kidding. Nancy smiled. Your face is redder than a tomato. Erica crackled. I hate all of you, I grumbled. Oh, stop being so serious. Danny put a hand on my shoulder. Come on, let's get to class. The weeks went by. Everything seemed to be normal. I think Liu even made new friends. Everything was normal and nothing happened. When you came up to me one day and told me about Jeff. Excuse me, your name is Jane, right? I turned around and looked. It was Liu. Yes, you're Liu, right, Jeff's brother? Yeah. He looked a little uncomfortable. And again, so was I. Look, my parents wanted to tell you that Jeff is getting his bandages removed in a few days. So expect a phone call inviting you to dinner soon. Okay, well, thank you, I said. He was about to turn away when I said, hey, listen, what you did for Jeff, it was really respectable. Thanks. I heard you tried to help my brother with fire, so that was cool. Yeah, well, thanks. See you around, I guess. Yeah, see ya. I was watching him walk away when I heard a voice beside me. Cheating on your boyfriend, are you? The fuck? I turned around, surprised. It was Marcy. And with this, his own brother, nonetheless, he faked gas. Shut up, I yelled. Then I turned my head and made sure Liu didn't hear me. He didn't. Let's get to class. Class, I grumbled. 2 days passed until the phone rang. My mom answered it. A few minutes later, he got off and told me this. Jeff is getting out of the hospital today, Jane. He looked up at her and said, That's great. Looks like we're having that free dinner in a few days, he chuckled. A few hours passed and I heard a car pull into the driveway across the street. Looked out the window and saw Jeff's car in front of its house. Jeff's home, I thought. I decided to watch out of curiosity. See what he looked like. Dear God, how wrong I was. His dad got out, then his mom, then Liu. But what I expected, Jeff to look like couldn't be farther from what I saw. He had long black hair down to his shoulders, white leathery skin, and that smile. The smile was the same smile I saw when he was in class after he beat up Randy, Keith, and Troy. Jeff looked right at me. Into my eyes, I could feel the soulless, sadistic eyes burn right into my soul. I still shake from their memory even now as I type this. He seemed to be looking at me for hours with that smile until He looked away. I saw him walk into the house with his parents. I didn't even breathe until that dog closed behind them. My parents came into the living room and asked me what was wrong. The only reply was a long, loud scream, then I fainted. I finally woke up. It was dark outside. My parents were in their bedroom. The house was deathly quiet. I got up and went downstairs. I heard I was wearing a long nightgown that I wasn't wearing before I fainted. I went downstairs to the kitchen. Light was on. The lights were on, which was unusual. My parents always told me to turn off the lights in the room when I left it. There was a note on the table. Picked it up. Scrawled on the paper was this: "Aren't you coming for dinner? Your friends will be here too." It began to shake violently. I dropped the paper and I went to the living room and looked out. Nights were on in Jeff's house. I knew I had to go there. I was terrified out of my mind. I shook my head and looked back again. I saw Jeff leaning on the window in his house staring at me, with a knife in his hand tapping against the window. He was still smiling. I started stepping back from the window, never taking my eyes off him. Then I turned and ran away from the window into the kitchen. When I turned and ran away from the window into my kitchen, and I peeked out of the kitchen and to look out the window, all I saw was a smear of red on the window. I turned around, looked at the kitchen. Everything seemed to be in its place. Even the knives. I grabbed one of them and held on tight. And I found the phone and tried to dial 911, but the phone line was disconnected. I had no idea where my dad's cell phone was, or if it was even fixed. I didn't want to go upstairs to find it. I didn't want to get stabbed in the back while I was looking for it. So if I went to ask one of the neighbors for help, Jeff could kill or hurt whoever he had captive. So there was only one choice: to go fight Jeff alone. I clutched the knife tighter and went to the front door, put on my shoes, and went outside. My hand lingered on the doorknob as I stepped outside, but I knew that what I had to do. Let go of the doorknob and marched across the street next to Jeff's house. As I got closer to the front door of his house, I began to slow down. My knees began to shake. My palms began to sweat. I started to breathe faster and shallower. Before I knew it, I was standing completely still on the front doorstep, panting like a dog. I bent up and grabbed the doorknob, squeezed my eyes shut, and jerked it open. I stood there in the doorway with the knife in my right hand and the doorknob in my left, terrified to open my eyes until I heard a voice say, "Looks like you've made it. I'm glad you did, friend." I opened my eyes, then screamed, "Ah!" His eyes were large and unblinking, and his smile was red. He had carved a smile into his face. His clothes were covered in blood, and then I passed out. When I woke up, I was at the dining room table. My knife was gone, and when I looked up, I saw people sitting at the table. It was my parents, Jeff's parents, his brother, Liu, and my friend. He's alive. They shouldn't even be there. They were all dead, with smiles carved into their faces and huge red cavities in their chests. The smell was unbearable. It was indescribable, unlike anything I've ever smelled before. It was a smell of death. I tried to scream, but I had a gag in my mouth, so I was tied to the chair. I looked around the room in disbelief. Tears were welling up in my eyes from the sight and the smell of the bodies. Look who's finally awake. I turned and looked beside me. Jeff was there. I tried screaming, but the gag was in the way. Suddenly, he was beside with the knife against my throat. Shh, hush, hush, hush. It's not polite to scream at friends. Started sliding the grate across my face, constantly tracing invisible lines from the corners of my mouth up to my cheeks. In a large grinning smile, I shivered as he did this. When I turned away from him, he grabbed the back of my head and forced me to look at the scene at the table. Now, don't be rude. You're insulting everyone by not looking at their pretty faces. I looked back at the table, looking at everyone and their faces carved to smiles, and some in their chests still bleeding fresh blood, hot tears running down my face. I began to sob. Aw, what's wrong? Jeff purred. Are you upset that you don't look beautiful like them? I looked at him, trying to understand what he said. I looked away. When I saw his face again and looked back to the table. Don't worry, I'll make you beautiful too. What do you say? He then slid the knife under the gag and cut it off. I spat out the gag and looked at him straight in his eyes, trying to hold his gaze. He tilted his head to the side and as he looked back at me. And I shut his eyes and looked away from him. And I muttered darkly, "Go fuck yourself." Then I turned to look at him again. You joker reject. He just laughed in my face. I preferred it when he smiled. You're even funnier than I thought. He came closer to me. I looked away again, feeling his breath against my skin. Friends do friends favors, right? Well, I'm going to do a favor for you. I felt him let go of the back of my head. When I looked back, he was out of the room. I looked back at the table once more, taking it all in. Fresh tears started to come down my face as I remembered my family and friends who were alive only a few hours ago. I was still crying when Jeff came back. Don't cry, it will all be over soon. I looked down at him and saw he was holding a jug of bleach and a can of gas. My eyes widened and I looked back at him. I didn't have any alcohol, so this will have to do. Then he began to douse me in bleach and gasoline. We had better hurry, Jane. I've already called the fireman. Then he held up a single match, lit it, then threw it at me. The flames erupted as soon as the match came into contact with me. I screamed as loud as possible. I can't scream loud. Well, the pain was unbearable. I could feel the press melting off my body, the heat invading every pore in my body, blood evaporating in its veins, and my bones becoming charred and brittle. Before I blacked out, I heard Jeff laughing. See you later, my friend. I hope you become as beautiful as I am. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was sitting in a hospital bed, bandaged from head to toe. Everything was spinning, and it hurt to blink and breathe. I looked around and saw an empty room. I groaned loudly because my mouth was bandaged. Everything hurt. A nurse came in a few minutes later. Jane, can you hear me? I looked towards her. The room was spinning even more. Jane, I'm your nurse, Jackie. I don't know how to say this, but your family died in the fire. I'm sorry. Tears started falling down my face again. I sobbed. No, honey, don't cry. You won't be able to breathe again if you do. I couldn't stop. Jane, I'm going to give you something to help you calm down, right? I felt something run into my bloodstream when I fell asleep again. I woke up, could move more and my body wasn't as bandaged as it was when I first woke up. I looked around and saw that the room had flowers in it. Some were fresh, some were dying. I tried to get up, but the nurse came in, put me back down. Easy, Jane, you have been asleep for a while. Try to take it easy. I tried to speak. My voice came out rough and sandpapery. How long was I asleep? Almost 2 weeks. You were put in medical-induced coma in order for your body to heal. I'm the same nurse you saw the first time you woke up. Give me a mirror, I said. Jane, I don't think that's the... Give me a mirror! I felt the handle of my mirror get slipped into my hand. When I looked into the mirror, I dropped it on the floor. The shattering of the mirror didn't come to the shattering of realization. My skin was leathery brown. I didn't have a single hair on my head. The skin around my eyes was saggy. I looked almost as bad as Jeff. Everything came flooding back to me. I began to cry harder than I ever had before. The nurse was hugging me, but it didn't help much at the height of my sobbing. Oh, I'm going to cut that up, or not. I was surprised that nobody else came to check up on me. By the time I was done, I could barely speak. Someone came into my doorway. Excuse me, I have a delivery for Miss Arkansas. I'll take Joe's. Jackie stood up and went to the doorway. I didn't want the delivery guy to look at me, so I stared at the wall in front of me. Someone clearly cares about you, Jane. It looks like the same person who sent you all these flowers got you a package too. Looked around at her. She was holding a pink paper package tied to a brown string. I reached out and took it from her. The second I took that package and saw from her and knew something was wrong. Excuse me, could I have something to eat? I asked as sweetly as possible. Of course, I'll get you some food right away. Jackie smiled back and then left the room. My hands shook as I grabbed the string and pulled it. Paper lightly bounced up as I saw something that turned my blood to ice. It was a white mask with black around the eyes and a black feminine smile. It also had a black lace covering the eye holes of the mask. So even though someone couldn't see my eyes, I could see them. There was also a long black dress with a turtleneck, black gloves, and a black wig with beautiful curls. Along with these things, there was a bouquet of black roses in a soft kitchen lamp. Attached to the mask, there was also a note. Jane, I'm sorry I messed up with trying to make you beautiful. So I gave you a mask that will let you seem beautiful until you get better. So you forgot your knife. Also, you forgot your knife. I thought you would want it back, Jeff. By the time the nurse Jackie came back, the present was hidden under the bed. I told her all that was there was the flowers. She seemed to be disgusted by them, so she threw them out. I thanked her for that. Reading story.
You better go homework, you better do don't let me catch you not doing school homework.
Okay. At night, when everyone was either asleep or gone home, I sneaked out. The only thing I had to wear was that dress, so I put it on and found a pair of shoes outside the door in the hallway, forgotten by some carelessness. I wore the wig to look less inconspicuous. I didn't know where I was going, and I didn't care. When I finally started walking, I was in front of the cemetery. I went inside and found two tombstones. Isabel, Arkansas, and Gregory, Arkansas. I sat down in front of their tombstones and cried once more. When I finally sat up, the sun was beginning to rise, and so was a new chapter in my life. I took the mask and put it on, then picked up the knife and held it tightly as I did before. Then I turned around and looked at the rising sun. On that day I swore my revenge against Jeff, the killer, and donned my new name, Jane Everlasting. For I want the only thing to be more everlasting for Jeff than his madness to be his death. Ever since that day I have been trying to find Jeff and kill him. Hunting like the animal he is. I will find you, Jeff, and I will kill you. As for the photo that has been popping up for me saying, don't go to sleep, you won't wake up, I pretty much explain what I want to do with Jeff victims, prevent them from becoming victims in the first place. Whoever said that I kill them so they don't get killed by Jeff is a gross overstatement. This is my story. Whether you accept it as a fact is not for me to decide. Now, if you excuse me, the sun is going down. The hunt is beginning once more.